Hey guys, Drew and Toddo here. As everybody knows, there's a global pandemic going on that's affecting a lot of people, but we want to still be here to ease your nerves and let's all get through this together.
Yeah, people, we're going to have a lot of free time in the next few weeks, possibly months, and we want to keep putting out content for you. And we had to learn a new skill to do this, so that's a good thing to do at a time like this is learn some new skills.
And one of the things this pandemic's affecting is the movie industry and specifically the theaters. So, since there's no new releases being shown in theaters because they're shut down, El Tado and I won't be able to review some of the films that were supposed to be released, but there are things being released on stream. Anyways, we thought that this would be a great time to get you guys involved, our fans, and we want to know what some of your favorite films are for us to discuss here on the podcast. So you can shoot those over to us at thebuffandtheblazer@gmail.com or shoot us a tweet at buffandblazer on Twitter, and maybe your film will get discussed here on the podcast and be featured on an episode.
Yeah, and if you are going to send over anything, just make sure it's on a platform that we can get at, Netflix, Hulu, Amazon, all that good stuff, not some random torrent download or anything like that. And if the audio sounds like crap because we're recording remotely now, please let me know and I will work to fix it. But we put some work in trying to figure out the best option, and let us know if it doesn't sound good at Buff and Blazer on Twitter or at thebuffandtheblazer@gmail.com.
And one extra note, in your email, write the title of your favorite film in the subject line and just give us a short description on why you love the film, and we'll take it into consideration. But until then, you guys, stay safe out there and stay healthy. Wash your hands.
And stay home, people. Eat all that boxed food.
The Buff and the Blazer.
Welcome to the Buff and the Blazer, episode 13. As always, I'm Drew, and I'm joined here with El Tado.
Yo.
And today, we are reviewing Onward, directed by Dan Scanlon, and it's an animated film from Pixar. So, as always, I want to go straight to you, El Tado. You actually got to see this in the theater. I did. It was the last film I saw in the theater before all this crazy stuff happened. What did you think coming out?
Yeah, this was going to be the last movie. I saw it like 2 days before they closed the theater, I think. And me and my lady were the only people in the whole theater. But coming out, I was not very stoked. I was expecting quite a lot more out of it, especially from the comedy side. And I was kind of disappointed coming out of the theater, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I felt like visually the movie was really enjoyable, and the story was kind of cool, kind of cheesy in some ways, but it is a little kid movie. But it just fell so flat on the comedy. I was really expecting to laugh a lot just because I haven't seen a lot of these, computer animation movies, but the ones I have seen have all been pretty funny, and I wasn't laughing a lot at this one at all.
Just out of curiosity, what can you remember what some of the CG animated films were that you saw?
So most recently I saw that, Zootopia?
Okay.
With Jason Bateman, right?
Yeah, so that's a Disney animation, not so much Pixar.
Is that
but
just
yeah,
like a
same.
straight cartoon? Because I remember it being like 3D-ish. I don't know.
Yeah, no, the days of, and I was going to bring this up actually later, but the days of 2D animation are pretty much dead, unfortunately. And I guess we can blame it on Pixar.
Is it the same technology?
It seems to be, yeah. It's all computer animated.
Okay.
Most films now, even if they're not from Disney. For me, I thought this was just your typical Disney Pixar film. I liked it. The story I thought it was a cute story. I think it was aimed at a younger audience, which most of these are, but there are things in there I think that adults can take from. But I enjoyed the enjoyed the story of the adventure and the two brothers. But yeah, the animation, of course, always looks amazing. It's really beautiful to look at. And I liked the journey of the two characters and the adventure they go on. I don't know if it's my favorite Pixar film, but I will say I did enjoy it coming out.
You said it's cute at some point.
Yeah.
And that's the problem with it for me. It's too cute.
Too cute.
Too cute and too wholesome.
I get you.
Like, not that the general story is, but I felt like they leaned into the cute and wholesome way too much, and it could have been a lot more witty.
Okay.
I guess.
Well, let's get into the story a little bit, because I want to ask you a little bit about that. So, this film definitely has a message. Did you have a problem with the message, or did you have a problem with the way they were trying to get the message across?
No, I didn't have a problem with it. It's just I would have liked a lot more, maybe deeper, wittier stuff that wasn't just for kids in the dialogue of the characters in the story. The story itself is fine. It has, the perfect arc, and it's fairly predictable. But you can weave in a lot more deeper messages for other audiences in the dialogue, I feel like. And I felt like all the lines in the movie were just way too wholesome.
I get you. Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I hear where you're coming from. So for you, I guess they could have maybe been a little bit clever with the dialogue in terms of getting adults more on board with what they were trying to say.
Yeah, because obviously this is aimed at kids age 6 to 10. It's a pretty little kids movie, and all those kids are basically having to see these movies with their parents. And I felt like if I was a parent, I want to go see these cartoon movies, and I want to get some type of enjoyment out of it beyond just visually, because visually it's very pleasing and the animation's awesome. But the whole story just felt like every line was written so a 6-year-old could get it and understand it.
I get you. Okay, so for you, what aspect of the story in terms of the plot and maybe their journey throughout the film, was there a part of that you kind of enjoyed, or one aspect of that you enjoyed?
Yeah, I liked the journey part of it. I love the old van and
Guinevere.
And I enjoyed the journey. I enjoyed a lot of the elements of the story. The magic is cool, and the big message that's wrapped in with the magic is cool. But it was really the dialogue that just, I didn't dislike the story at all. You could have maybe gone a few different ways with it, with some of the kind of peripheral characters.
Yeah.
And I felt like it was just, the story was a little too predictable, but it was enjoyable, and the journey they went on was cool. And I loved all the van scenes, driving around in that van. I liked all of that.
Yeah. It's a weird mixture of, like, it's a quest adventure film, and it's a bit of like a bonding buddy film on top of this Indiana Jones element and Lord of the Rings. They combined all of this into this soup that they called Onward, I guess.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. And I think I totally understand where you're coming from in terms of the dialogue and how things are spoken in the film. And I guess for me, I don't know if that's just for me having been exposed to a lot of younger kids films that are animated and Pixar films, because, I'm in a house full of nieces and nephews, and these things are on all the time. So I don't know if I've just become accustomed to all this stuff. But to me, I guess in terms of the screenplay and the dialogue, that didn't really bother me as much as maybe it bothered you. But the thing that really hooked me about Onward was the journey that the characters go on, and the whole sort of idea that, all these fantastical characters are the kinds of creatures you hear out of these fairy tales, and they have their magic, and basically they become modernized, and technology comes in the way, and then they kind of lose their magic. I thought that was kind of cool, and it speaks a little bit to the times we live in now, Although I'd argue like just with the things going on now, we're kind of being shoved into a new era in terms of technology. I really thought that was a clever way to frame these creatures we're all familiar with, like fairies and elves and things like that. And for me, what I loved the most was the adventure feel of the whole film. Like starting off, he has a brother, Ian, voiced by Tom Holland, and then you have Barley, his older brother, voiced by Chris Pratt. And I loved how they kind of bond over this journey where they're following like a map, something you'd get out of like Dungeons and Dragons. And they go on this journey, and you're following them throughout the whole story. I don't know, that just really stood out to me. And I'm not like a huge fan of Lord of the Rings or anything like that. I just, anytime we can go on an adventure with a couple characters, I always find that really fun to watch. And that's, I guess, why I compare it to Indiana Jones in that sense.
I see what you're saying there, and I like all that aspect of the movie. It is a little strange that they do just kind of mash every fantasy character all into the same world.
Yeah.
And that's kind of part of the deeper message probably of the movie.
Right.
And maybe it just didn't really connect that well with me because, one, I don't have a brother, and two, I had a father, and I still do have a father. So maybe it just didn't really like hit home that hard with me. But I enjoyed the journey aspect of it. And it's funny you say you're not a Lord of the Rings fan. All the other things that you mentioned, like Dungeons and Dragons and all that other stuff, I'm not a fan of any of that stuff. But I am a fan of Lord of the Rings, just because I read the books as a little kid.
Let me ask you this. Were there any kind of like little references to Lord of the Rings, even if they were minor, that you could pick up on?
Well, that's kind of getting at the whole, maybe a big fault I see in the story is it's almost the journey story is a story that's been told so many times.
Right.
Going back forever, man. And I felt like it was kind of biting a little bit, especially on the Lord of the Rings side of it.
Okay.
I don't know. I felt like it was kind of biting at that same storyline.
Yeah, just trying to squeeze out more of that same orange.
Yeah, and then squeeze out like some of the Tinkerbell characters that are like the biker Tinkerbells.
Yeah.
You know, I just felt like they had all of these movies up on a wall from the past, pictures of all these characters, and then just had the main journey storyline, and it was like an ultimate just mishmash or Mad Lib of old stories and old characters with like a modern twist on all of it, you know? But that's what it felt like to me. It didn't feel very original at all.
I see. Okay. Yeah, I guess. See, I'm a little different. So, to me, I thought that having the magic characters become, I guess, modernized. I don't know if that's the right word to use here. I thought that was pretty original, at least in terms of an animated Pixar film, I guess. So they go into one of the restaurants that used to be like this really bustling, rough and tumble tavern back during the magic days where people would go and get their quests and get all the information they needed before they went on these journeys. And it's become basically like the equivalent of a Denny's or something like that. Like things like that I thought were funny. Like maybe, and I think I agree with you too. There's not a whole lot of moments in the movie where I laughed out loud at the jokes they were telling, but there were like elements of the plot and just the way they set the world up that got me just chuckling because I was like, oh, that's pretty funny. It's pretty clever. It's funny to see how they juxtapose like the old magic world with this modernized new technological world they got going on. I thought that was that's pretty funny. I don't know.
Isn't that the same premise in that Zootopia movie though? All the animals have modernized and now they don't hunt each other, they all just work jobs. Isn't that basically the same thing? That's what I'm getting at. I just felt like, oh well, I think I've seen this before, but instead of animals,
Yeah.
it's fairy tale characters.
Yeah, I guess that's in a similar vein too. Actually, that's interesting you mentioned that because that didn't even cross my mind. But yeah, I could see where you're coming from. So yeah, I guess if you take that into consideration, this could seem a bit unoriginal. But I don't know. For me, it still worked. I don't know. And I've seen that Zootopia movie a million times. It was like there was a point, I don't know when that came out, 2016, 2015, that was on 24/7 in my house.
I liked it a lot because it was funny.
Yeah, yeah.
And
yeah, I could see what you're talking about. The dialogue in that film compared to Onward, it's very witty.
Yeah.
So yeah, I see where you're coming from. You might even start to change my mind a little bit here.
And Sonic, bro. We just did Sonic.
Yeah.
Dialogue in that movie was awesome.
I get you.
But that's geared at an older thing, so I gotta, give him a break on that one.
Okay, so aside from those elements, I think the other thing that I enjoyed were the characters of Ian and Barley and them spending time together on screen. And I loved how different they were. I loved how Barley was sort of the older kind of slacker brother. He's very into, like, they don't say it flat out, but it's basically Dungeons and Dragons, this like quest magical board game. He's like super into that. He's into the magic of the past. He knows a lot about it. And his younger brother, Ian, he's more of like, he's just trying to fit in. He's trying to find his place. He wants, he's trying to get friends over, and he just wants to fit in. And his brother, they're completely opposite in terms of their personalities. And I enjoyed whenever they were on screen together, especially when they're in the brothers' van, Guinevere. Like, those were some of my favorite moments. What were some of the characters that stuck out to you? Did you get any kind of the same feelings from the two brothers?
Yeah, I really, I just felt let down with the potential because I loved when they were on screen together and their dialogue between each other. But I felt like they could have had, when they're being portrayed as having deep conversations with each other.
Yeah.
It's like just two can predict almost every next word. I really wanted Chris Pratt's character to be a lot funnier because visually he was really funny, and the way the character is constructed, he's like the older brother that still lives at home and is just obsessed with the game, and that's really funny in itself.
Right.
And I felt like the interplay between him and Tom, dialogue-wise, there could have been a lot more like brother jokes at each other, and I felt like all the times that were meant to make you laugh was like Barley falling out of the van or stepping on, like really kind of, hit yourself kind of comedy.
Yeah. No, I could totally see where you're coming from there. Yeah, I don't know. There was something about, and I guess you could say too, like the way they set up their characters in the beginning, it is a bit predictable. Like, they're so different in the beginning that you're expecting them to bond. Like, it's essentially a journey of bonding for them, I guess. And yeah, they totally bring that point home at the end, which, we're not going to spoil this for you guys.
Oh, so this is a no spoilers, right? Because it came out like a week and a half ago or something. I think it came to streaming like today.
Okay. Well, I still think it's new enough to maybe we can lay off some of the spoilers.
Okay.
I don't know. I enjoyed the relationship and the arc of their relationship throughout the film, even though, yeah, I guess it is sort of cheesy and wholesome in that way now that you're really like starting to change my mind on this now. But as is the way things go. Were you aware of some of the other voice actors in this film though? Like,
no, I was thinking the whole time, trying to put my finger on it. I knew Chris Pratt's voice.
Right.
And I had no idea that Julia Louis-Dreyfus was the mom, Laurel.
So
Lightfoot.
she was. I had no idea that she was Laurel either.
And I watch a lot of Seinfeld, man. I watch like probably 10 to 12 episodes a week.
Yeah.
And I had no idea it was her. And then I was trying to figure out who Colt Bronco was, Mel Rodriguez.
Uh-huh.
And I couldn't figure out at all. And I don't know. I don't know if I'm aware of Mel Rodriguez. but the whole time it was kind of bugging me because I was trying to figure out who was who.
Yeah, and then, of course, we have Octavia Spencer as the Manticore, and she was a pretty main character. But I thought...
Her character was super cool.
Yeah, she played a great character. And then someone that's a veteran cast member, I guess, on the Buff and the Blazer podcast, Ali Wong was in this, too.
Yeah, I just saw that.
Yeah.
Looking at it.
So, yeah, she makes another appearance on a film we're reviewing. But I thought, across the board, every actor they cast did a great job, and I thought fit their characters really, really well. Like Tom Holland, him as Ian, that was, I thought, perfect casting. Chris Pratt did a great job of playing the older, like, slacker brother. And like you said, I didn't even recognize Julia Louis-Dreyfus as a Laurel Lightfoot. So, I mean, I don't know, across the board, Disney always finds a way to get great casts in these animated films, and I thought they all kind of sounded really good.
Would I know anything that Tom Holland has been in?
Well, you haven't watched a whole lot of the Marvel superhero films.
Okay, so he's a superhero guy.
Yeah. Well, let's try this. If you had to guess which superhero Tom Holland played in the Marvel universe, who would you say he played? Just a guess off the top of your head.
Fuck, I don't know. I'm like trying to figure out which superheroes are in which universe. Is he like an X-Men? Is he like one of the X-Men?
No, he's not one of the X-Men.
Oh, there's my guess. He's not Cyclops?
Not Cyclops. All right. So Tom Holland plays Spider-Man
Oh, okay.
in the MCU.
Okay.
And I don't know if you can catch that, but Spider-Man in the MCU totally pulls off this like teenager. They go for the younger Spider-Man and less of the adult, the man-child version of Spider-Man. They go way more for like he's a teen kid and he goes to high school and he's also Spider-Man. He just does a great job as Spider-Man.
Oh, cool. Is that one of the newer ones?
Yeah. So Spider-Man, Homecoming, and Spider-Man. I can't remember off the top of my head now. It's bugging me. But anyways, he's not the only one playing a superhero, though. Chris Pratt is also in those Marvel films.
Really?
Yes.
What superhero is he? Do you want to play the same game?
All right. Yeah. Give me your best guess for Chris Pratt's superhero.
I don't think I know too many Marvel characters, man.
Well, you can count out Wonder Woman, so there's a hint.
He's not a Superman. There's that.
He's not a Superman.
Is he a villain?
No.
Oh, I have no idea.
Okay, so he plays this character called Star-Lord, and he's in this film called Guardians of the Galaxy. It's like an ensemble superhero cast.
Oh, I've heard of Guardians of the Galaxy. I didn't know that was part of the whole deal. I was thinking like X-Men.
Yeah.
Spider-Man, Superman, and then I dip into DC, and then my brain gets all scrambled, and I can't figure out what's what.
But yeah, it makes sense for these guys. I mean, they're Marvel guys. They're in under the Disney umbrella, so of course Pixar is going to go, come and do some voices for us. But yeah, just for everyone out there, I meant Spider-Man Homecoming and Spider-Man Far From Home. I actually do really love these films. It's just sometimes my brain, it won't work on the spot, but I'm still here. They're familiar with each other. They've worked on the Avengers films together. So I don't know if you had any sense of chemistry, but I thought both of them really meshed really well in the film, and I'm sure a lot of that had to do with their familiarity with each other already.
Yeah, I got that. Their chemistry was good, and like I said, all the scenes and everything with them together are enjoyable, and all the characters really are enjoyable. They're almost funny just in the way they look. Like, I loved Colt Bronco's character. He's just, the centaur.
Right.
And I love how he's like, comes in to sit at the kitchen table, and he's knocking shit all over the place and has to push the chair back for his ass to sit on it. Yeah. And then he still stands with his front two legs.
Right.
I thought that was all really funny. And I think that has something to do with why things fell short for me, because all the voices were great with the characters. They all seemed to fit well in terms of the whole storyline. But I thought they were so visually funny that it kind of, that they felt like when they were making the movie that they can make the dialogue right at a 6-year-old just because visually everything's funny.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get you. I mean, yeah, now I'm totally starting to see where you're coming from.
My lady didn't like it at all.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, wow.
She was like, "Man, that was like not funny." She said the same thing when we walked out. She's like, "That was really kind of boring."
Okay. Man. Yeah, well, you're starting to convince me a little bit here.
I don't need to convince you. You can like the movie.
No.
It's fine.
No, I mean, I still do like it. I'm just saying you're probably bringing me down half a point now. But
I'm the equalizer.
Yeah, you are. I do want to get back to the look of the characters, though. I absolutely loved the look of Barley. Like, if you put the look of Barley and his voice, like, that's how I picture someone sounding, I guess. Or that's how, when I hear someone like that, that's how I would expect them to look. Like, they just did a really good job. I loved how they gave him, like, the jean vest and with all the patches and the cut off shorts and his beanie. Like, I really liked how he looked. He was probably my favorite character in the film.
Yeah, me too. And he's got a cast on the whole time.
Yeah. And then, of course, I mean, Guinevere the van, like, she's almost like a character in herself. No lines or anything, but he loves his van so much. I thought that was really cool. I almost got, like, sort of a Wayne's World vibe, too. It's kind of weird. But, yeah,
I could see that.
I really enjoyed that aspect of it.
Before we go too deep into the characters, what did you make of where this whole story ended up at the end?
Yeah, so I thought that was interesting because, so the plot of the film really kind of, it literally circles back. And also the arc of the two characters, I guess, circle back. So not only do you have the characters going on a certain arc, but the story in general and the journey aspect of the film end up in sort of a loop. And I thought that was interesting. Without spoiling anything, I'd say the ending, for me at least, was pretty bittersweet. And I guess that's something that I predicted. So I predicted that they'd end up where they end up towards the end of the film, in terms of the resolution with their father. But I wasn't sure if the directors were gonna do it that way, if that makes sense. So, like, I saw the story ending that way in terms of the two brothers and what happens with their father at the end, but I wasn't sure if they were gonna actually go for it and do it, because it is kind of bittersweet and sad. I don't know how you thought about it.
Well, I think that's probably a strength for me, is how they ended it, because it's not the perfectly wholesome. It's like the entire movie's wholesome and predictable, and then the ending is not bad, but not the super predictable ending. So I appreciated that, and it kind of does a good thing to tie the whole loop together at the end of the movie, how he, realizes the importance of his brother, in the absence of his father, kind of stuff.
Right.
So I appreciated that ending, that it wasn't just exactly what the happy ending would have been.
Right, because they could have wrapped it up in a bow, like, and totally gone full Disney mode on you. But that's why I said, I guess, I saw where it was going, but I wasn't sure if they were gonna do it, and so I was pretty stoked when it happened. But yeah, I think that is, like you said, that's one of the strengths of the story. Is I am glad they ended it on that note, and it does really serve kind of the message that they were trying to deliver, I guess.
Yeah,
and
it wraps everything up nice.
Yeah, and then I guess too that also contributed to why I enjoyed the brothers so much. And I guess I'm in the same boat with you. I don't have any brothers. So I got 3 sisters. So I don't have any kind of
And you got a dad
exposure
too.
to this. And I have a dad. So I can't really relate to the story, but I mean, I could put myself in their shoes and understand how maybe someone who grew up without a father would want to know more about them, especially if, you know, their father passed away or whatnot. And that's actually something, I guess, I was watching an interview with Dan Scanlon, the director, and he did lose his dad at a young age. So for him, this story, writing it, because he also co-wrote it, this was something that directly affected him, and it was a story that he wanted to tell because, you know, it came straight from his heart and the gut, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, and you can tell it's that kind of movie, right?
Yeah, and I guess, too, I could see people who come from those circumstances and have experienced similar circumstances. I could see this being a film that pays off for them, I guess, that they appreciate maybe more than... I mean, I really enjoyed it, but they would be able to take something away from it that I wasn't able to, I guess, or I didn't connect with as fully as someone in those circumstances.
Yeah, I could see this landing with fatherless boys all over the world, like landing really well with them. You know, and kind of teaching the lesson to, you know, love the people who are around you and all that kind of good stuff. But
yeah, or even just kids without a parent, period. Like,
yeah,
totally.
But it's not going to land for everyone, you know.
No,
like it could touch a lot of people, and that's great. But it didn't land with me super hard.
Yeah, no, and I mean that's what's cool about movies is like.
Yeah, and it doesn't have
Rotten
to.
Tomatoes.
You know.
Yeah, this film has an 87% on Rotten Tomatoes. That means like 87% of the critics that reviewed this film gave it a positive review, and you know, even a film like this, there are still going to be a bunch of people that it didn't work for, and that's the great thing about, I guess, the subjectivity of film. That's what makes it so fun, and that's why we have a podcast.
You know, so I've never looked at this Rotten Tomatoes website before.
Okay.
But now that we're working from our computers, I can look at all kinds of stuff. So,
yeah.
The top critics is down to 72%.
Okay, right.
With an average, 6.5 rating. But
Yep.
what I don't get about Rotten Tomatoes, why does it hold so much weight? Because the sample size is so small. I mean, even the audience score is only, 10,000. It's
Right,
only like
and I think
10,000 people. Like, I don't understand why they carry so much weight if their sample size is so tiny. Can you explain that to me?
Well, so they're really the only ones even doing a sample size. I guess that's the main reason. Like before, I guess Rotten Tomatoes, you would just go out and read like reviews separately on their own. But this was really, as far as I know, this is one of the only aggregators of critics, and like a typical, I guess, pool or a number that they get for it to be fresh is like over 100 or something like that. So if they can get over 100 reviews in the positive, that's a fresh score. But yeah, like on average for like a big blockbuster film, like your Marvels and your Star Wars films, they'll usually aggregate like 300 plus reviews. The only time I find Rotten Tomato scores useless and just funny is when like it'll have, a Rotten Tomato score of 95% or something out of like 10 reviews.
Yeah.
Then your sample size just doesn't mean anything.
But just looking from the audience, they all seem to love it too. I mean, it's a difference of 1% between the verified audience and the whole audience.
Yeah, and they're getting better too, because like before, any random person could go on, even if you never saw the film, and just post a review and a score.
Oh.
So this verified audience score is it's a lot more meaningful, because I don't know exactly how they do it, but they try and verify that you actually saw it.
Okay.
So yeah, that's pretty interesting. But yeah, so it currently holds an 87%, but top critic rating of 72, which is still not bad. And that's probably where I would put this film anyways, in the 70 percentile range.
Yeah, like it's a good movie, but it's not an awful movie, but it's for kids, I'll put it that way. I'm an adult. I don't have kids. I've watched a few kid movies here and there, but movies like Onward are the reason I generally don't watch kid movies.
Okay, all right. So let me ask you this then. I'm just real quick because I'm curious. I'm gonna just blurb off a couple of Pixar titles, a few Pixar titles, and I'm just curious to know if you've seen any of these films.
Okay.
So you have obviously you have all the Toy Story films.
I seen the first one when I was like, I don't know when did the first one come out?
Probably around 95, 96.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say I think I was like 10 or 11 years old.
Yeah.
But just the first one. I haven't seen any of the others.
Right. Okay. So yeah, and then not to go too much off on a tangent, but Pixar. I mean, I think Toy Story is really what put CGI animation on the map, and I guess Toy Story was really the 2D animation killer. I don't know if you noticed, there's no 2D animation anymore. At least not in the movies.
Yeah, I was gonna say on TV there's plenty.
Yeah, but in terms of theatrical releases, at least from everything that I've seen, it's 99% CG animation.
And
South
Pixar
Park
needs to make
plays
another movie.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
they even do 3D now sometimes in some of the episodes.
Right. So you have that. Have you heard of a film called Ratatouille?
Oh yeah, wasn't Patton Oswalt
Yeah.
the guy? I haven't seen it,
At least I believe so.
but I like his
Yeah.
stand-up.
Yeah, so Ratatouille that's Patton Oswalt. That was one. They have The Incredibles. Finding Nemo's another Pixar film.
Okay, I remember Finding Nemo.
Yeah, Wall-E, Monsters Inc.
I remember Monsters Inc.
Okay, so you've seen
that
a few
movie
of these.
seems witty in my memory.
Yeah, and it is pretty witty. And to be honest, it's super adult because that film is centered around a bunch of adult monsters. But yeah, and then you have Up, you have Cars. Probably my favorite Pixar film, bar none, is Coco. I don't think I've seen anything up to that quality as of yet from Pixar. Coco was a slam dunk.
What's Coco?
It's a film set in Mexico, and it has to do with Day of the Dead, and it's just a really great story. At some point, we could probably even do an episode on it.
Why
But
not?
yeah,
Sounds sweet. I bet
Yeah,
all the makeup and the costumes for what is it?
it's-
Dia de los Muertos?
Yes, it's just gorgeous to look at.
Yeah, I'll watch that. Is it funny though?
I don't know. I don't know if it's funny for you or not. I'm not sure. Because there were parts of Onward that I found pretty funny, but I don't know.
Well,
So yeah, that was I was just curious.
Yeah, all that Pixar talk is good segue into the look of the movie,
Right.
And that's where the movie was great for me. I absolutely loved it. I loved all the little mushroom houses. I loved all the characters. I loved the van driving scenes. I absolutely loved it. And this just popped into my head. You mentioned Indiana Jones. The scene towards the end of the movie with the drawbridge. You think that's an original idea? I mean,
so that's exactly what I thought of when I saw that. I was like, Last Crusade?
yeah, right?
Yeah.
It's literally
man.
the same thing.
Yeah.
But visually,
That's
the
what I thought of,
movie's
too.
awesome. I love the freaking giant concrete foundation dragon.
Yeah.
And I love how it's really cool how it's almost like a magnetic ball of evil that sucks all
that
the
was
stuff to it. I thought visually all that stuff was really cool. And the magic was really cool.
Yeah. No, I'm with you there. When are our video games going to look that good?
I don't know. I don't even really know what video games look like these days. I was playing 2K for the first. I've never played a PS4, and my buddy has. He bought 2K 2019 because it was only $10 and you can't play online, I guess.
Right.
When you have the previous year, but I was playing that, and it was really entertaining. I don't think it was as crisp as a movie like this, but sports-wise, the video game looks super real.
Yeah. I mean, Pixar has to be the best animation house, I think, in the industry today. There's a lot of studios and movie houses that are getting good at it, and they're really improving, but I don't think anyone beats Pixar in terms of the quality of the animation. And for me, my favorite shots in any Pixar film, for whatever reason, are the really long landscape shots of any kind of scenery.
Yeah.
They're just always gorgeous. Like when they were out on the quest and you'd get these like really wide framed sweeping landscape shots of the terrain. I love those.
Yeah, with all the giant ravens pointing the
Yeah.
way, like the giant stone ravens. I loved all that.
Yeah, that was. I mean, I love shots like that. But for me, interesting. I think my favorite scene visually is actually when Guinevere breaks down, or not breaks down, but they run out of gas and they have to go through kind of the sketchy part of town, and it's lit at night and they got to go into the gas station. Something about like the colors and the lighting of that scene, I really liked how that was done. I don't know. Visually, it was just really pleasing, that whole sequence.
My favorite visual sequence is kind of just after that, after they figure out their gas situation.
Yeah.
And then they go kind of on their true epic journey
Right.
at the end, and all the scenes where the van is driving and the camera, or not camera, but like the frame is panned out really far.
Right.
I loved all of that.
Yeah,
It
that
was like
really
so
cool.
pleasing to watch. Like I get what you're saying. Like I wish that was a video game.
Yeah.
They could probably make an Onward video game with all kinds of different options to go on the route, and that would be cool.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if they could get computer games or console games to look anywhere near the quality of these Pixar films, that would be awesome. But like you, I'm not much of a gamer. Like literally the last game I played was Sonic the Hedgehog. Like the Sega Genesis version of it. But yeah, and one thing I did want to hit on though is another really cool part of this film is I loved how the design of the buildings, how they mixed the old architecture with new modern like home style architecture. So in Ian and Barley's house, like I like how there's elements of like the woodwork and stuff that looks like it's straight out of like the Shire from like Lord of the Rings. I don't know if you picked up on any of that.
Yeah, I loved all the mushroom houses. Like the suburbs were all giant mushroom houses.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. And then you go inside and it's totally like a modern suburb house.
Yeah.
And then
but
they-
like even
like you
inside you see like details.
Yeah, little things.
Right.
Stuff that is like that they're getting the message across that it's like it's not that far in the past, but it is in the past.
Yeah. Like I'm trying to remember, I think it's the front door of their house even looks like it's off of one of the houses in Lord of the Rings or something. Like from the Shire. I don't know. I just thought that was really really cool. And then obviously I loved another scene I really enjoyed was the whole sequence in the restaurant with the manticore.
Yeah.
Like that was really really cool.
Yeah, I liked her a lot. She was always like when she's riding in the car with Laurel, the mom,
Right.
and it's like just she's so huge that it's just the car's just riding completely flat on one side. It's so funny.
Yeah, see, and I think going back to the humor of it, I guess I caught myself laughing at more of sort of the visual, sort of like it's so ridiculous, it's hilarious.
Yeah.
And it's not because it's ridiculous that they weren't trying to be ridiculous. It's funny because they're actually trying to visually look ridiculous. And I guess that's why there were a lot of moments where I just came out and laughed because it's funny to see.
Yeah, and like the goofiness, the falling over. There's a lot of that kind of comedy in the movie and a lot of visual comedy.
Right.
But I felt like you could have had plenty of like the Colt Bronco's character. You could have had every line that he says in the movie just be completely hilarious and witty.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. It was just like the cheesy stepdad stuff, you know?
Right, right. No, I totally hear you. And I guess you can say out of a lot of these Pixar films, maybe this one feels like it is geared more towards an audience of a younger age. And I guess you could say maybe the same thing about like Cars or something, or maybe even, I don't know. I guess a lot of them do have adult elements though.
Have you seen
But anyways, like
any of the Lego movies?
yes,
Are they good?
I love the Lego movies. Yeah, they're really good.
My friend who has 2 young boys told me that the Lego movies are hilarious for adults.
And I would agree with him.
And he's like, the kids will love it too, but he's like, they're just awesome for adults too. And that's
Yeah, and
kind
the
of
humor
like
is
the
completely
expectation I had of this movie.
I see. I get you. Yeah, so if you were going in expecting something like that, then I could see how you were just like kind of let down.
Mm.
And I guess I'm so familiar with Pixar that maybe I didn't go in with that kind of expectation. But yeah, the humor that you get in like a Lego movie is something completely different. And that is like very funny for adults too.
Nice.
But yeah, that'd be a great film to review here too.
We got time.
Yeah, we're going to have a lot of time on our hands pretty soon.
What'd you think about the score in the movie? I don't remember too much.
Yeah, so I actually did remember quite a bit of the score in this film. And one thing I liked was there was a lot of, like they didn't take popular songs and stick them in, but they did do a lot of popular musical elements. So on top of like a standard orchestral score, they included like little pop beats with like guitar, electric guitar, a drum set, like even times heavy metal during some of the sequences with Guinevere.
I like those.
But yeah, Jeff Dana and Michael Dana, they did a great job of scoring the film in terms of like highlighting the emotion, but also just giving kind of a nice mixture of both classical and more modern sounding elements. I don't know, the score really worked for me, and I thought it complemented a lot of the scenes really well.
Yeah, I don't remember too much of it, but I remember the metal and the van action, the rock and roll element. I like that part of it. And I feel like when the little biker fairy chicks were chasing them around, there was like metal playing.
Yeah.
Around that part of the movie, and I enjoyed that. The music didn't bother me at all. I don't got any major problems with it. It was entertaining.
Let me ask you this, because there are a lot of times where they're having like a heart-to-heart conversation and score comes in. Does any of that, and it can be in this film or just in general, does score help underline some of those emotions for you in general, I guess?
Those emotions are usually parts of the movie where I like adjust my seat and then just wait for it to be over. You know, it's just I'm not that into the the triumph of a digital character and the emotional growth of them. So I just
besides Sonic, of course.
Well, Sonic has it like I get back to Sonic. It lands with me because I have a connection to it. In this movie, I don't have any connection like that, or am lacking that. I guess I should say. So it's just like, I don't even notice the music. I just assume it's like cheesy, drawn up orchestral music when they're having those kinds of deep conversations.
Right. I hear you.
All right, dude. So what'd you love and what'd you hate about the movie?
All right. So for me, I guess hands down, I loved the adventure aspect of the movie. I loved the 2 brothers. I liked their arc, and I liked spending time with them on the journey. That's what was the most, I guess, interesting to watch for me. Like, I liked all of the adventure and their chemistry, and I liked their relationship and where they ultimately end up at the end. One thing, not so much that I hated about the film, but one thing I thought was kind of, I didn't really buy into a whole lot was Ian. I felt like Ian went from a character that didn't know anything about magic, didn't care to know anything about magic, then all of a sudden he becomes like a wizard. I didn't really buy that, and that was kind of something that didn't stick with me in the film. But again, it's not something that I like absolutely hated. It's just something that I picked up on, and I'm like, I don't know if I buy that.
Yeah, his graph of skill was like a climate change graph, just straight up.
Yeah, like he went from a 1 to a 9, like in a matter of 30 minutes. But yeah, what about you?
So what I loved about the movie was visually. I mean, it's so pleasing to watch these digital animations. They're so cool. Like even the characters have so much texture.
Right.
Like their hair, and it's just getting so good, and I really enjoyed that. And what I hated about the movie was it let me down on the comedy dialogue.
Okay.
Because it was physically very funny. You know,
Gotcha.
so like it was really funny physically, but it let me down on the dialogue. And I didn't like that about the movie.
I get you. All right, well, this is that time of the show that everyone's waiting for. What rating do you give Pixar's Onward?
I give it 2 bong loads.
2 bong loads.
Yeah. So what was
right.
the last movie that we did? Invisible Man or Parasite? Something like that?
Parasite.
All right, throw Parasite out. Throw out the outliers. So my reasoning for 2 bong loads is I would consider this movie in terms of like the casting and the entertainment value
Yeah.
to be good movies. But when I saw Invisible Man and came out, I was just met my expectations.
Okay.
Okay, so that's a 3 for me. That's what I gave it. And this
Gotcha.
movie kind of let me down a little bit. So it's a good movie. It's made well. All the casting's perfect. Visually, it's really good. The story's super predictable, but it's not horrible. I feel like they, kind of bit a lot of things from a lot of different things.
Right.
And then the letdown of the dialogue. So that's why I knock it down 1.
All right, fair enough. For me, I'm going to give this film 3.5 buckets of popcorn.
All right.
I thought that in its DNA, it was a Pixar film, and I thought that while it maybe didn't play to as wide a variety of age ranges as some of Pixar's earlier films, it still pretty much had like a solid message, and it got the point across. And I would say, though, that it is geared more towards a younger audience. And this is a film that I think kids would really get something out of and would really enjoy. So yeah, 3.5 buckets of popcorn for me. I think it's a good film that you would be able to take your kids out and watch. I mean, don't take them out right now, but once this thing gets released streaming, it'd be something to put on that the kids would really like, I think.
I think they released it today or tomorrow, something like that.
Okay, yeah, and we're recording this as of
The 20th.
the 20th of March. So, yeah, I mean, that's what we have to say on Pixar's Onward. Like we said, if it's on streaming, you can go catch it, I think, on pretty much any major streaming platform that you can purchase films from. I'd say generally this would be a great film for kids, and I think they'd really enjoy it. For me as an adult, there were aspects of it that I enjoyed, but it's not going to work for everyone. And that's
And
the
it
great
doesn't
thing
have
about
to.
films. It doesn't have to.
That's
why,
fine.
That's why we're here discussing this. If everyone just agreed, that'd be like the most boring podcast ever.
Exactly. And Pixar isn't making movies for, 34-year-old dudes with no kids. And so that's fine. It doesn't have to be a great movie for me. Don't take my recommendation if you have kids.
Yeah.
Take them to
And
see it.
You don't have to take my recommendation either. Don't see it. Whatever you guys want to do.
All options open.
All options on the table. So, yeah, that's what we got for you. This is episode 13 of The Buff and the Blazer. Thanks for hanging out with us, guys. And make sure you guys stay safe out there. Stay calm, and we're all going to get through this. Just take a deep breath and do the best you can.
And stay home, people. Peace.
Hey, everybody. Drew and El Toddo here from The Buff and the Blazer. And we just wanted to take a quick minute to say thank you to you, our listeners. We're so happy that you guys have come to the podcast and are enjoying it. And this is what makes it fun for us and what keeps us going to produce these shows for you guys.
Yeah, people, I lost a bet to Drew. I thought we were going to be under 100 after like 3 months of doing this, and we're coming up on 800. So we just want to say thank you so much. Thanks for listening, and all the people around the world. We got like 21 countries total of people that are listening, so thank you so much.
Yeah, and we could go down the list and name every single one, but we're not going to do that. We're just going to thank all of you across the globe for sticking with us and listening to our podcast. And we want you guys to go out and spread the word. If you're enjoying our content, tell your friends and family. You know where to find us. We're at thebuffandtheblazer@gmail.com, and you can tweet us at buffandblazer on Twitter.
Or if you have access to just a web browser, just go to the website, thebuffandtheblazer.com. You can listen to the podcast right there. And if you got any international movies, as long as there's an English subtitles option, let us know. We'd love to review them. We got plenty of free time on our hands coming up here in the next few months.
Right, and as we mentioned on the top of the show, you guys can send in your favorite movies, and we'll go through and see what we got, and maybe we can pick out a couple for a few future episodes to review and discuss some of your favorite films. But yeah, we want to incorporate you guys into the show, especially during this time. I think it'd be great for all of us to kind of just chill out and get this community going. From me and El Toddo, a huge thank you to all our fans and all our listeners.
Thank you, people.
Stay safe.
Stay home.